I, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, do solemnly swear
I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States
and will, to the best of my ability,
preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution of the United States.
So help me God.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It's the President's Guy, and today we're going to be talking about former Minnesota governor, professional wrestling icon, Navy SEAL, and all-around interesting character, Jesse Ventura. After the events in Minnesota this past week of the ICE murder, they later raided Roosevelt High School, which just so happens to be the alma mater of Jesse the Body Ventura. Now, anyone unfamiliar with Jesse, he is a former Navy SEAL, turned professional wrestler, turned mayor, turned governor, turned conspiracy theorist, turned pot farmer. And to say all that so succinctly and quickly really doesn't do the man justice. He's quite an eccentric character. But he's the former Minnesota governor, and he won. He's the only person to win under the Reform Party, which was the party of Ross Perot, who ran for president in 1992 against Bill Clinton and George H.W. Bush, and narrowly won the election. And had circumstances been a little different, he almost would have been the first president to win that wasn't a major party candidate since George Washington. Ventura would quickly leave the Reform Party after winning because he felt as if it was just the party of Ross Perot and people like Pat Buchanan and didn't really do anything to help him get elected governor. But the reason we're talking about this today is because upon exiting his former high school with his wife, you see that the camera crew approaches him and asks him a couple of questions about what was going on. And one particular comment he made stuck out to me. And it makes a major indication as to things that we may see in the future in terms of the body getting back into the body politic.
Governor, how did it go? Did you talk to principal, school administrators?
I just talked to everyone in there and told them how proud I was of them standing up to the draft-dodging cowards Gestapo.
And you...
Now, obviously, he's mentioning the ICE raids that have been going on. And he is not a big fan of Donald Trump, which is interesting because back in 2016, he was a big fan of the idea of people like Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump disrupting what he saw as the two-party dictatorship of American presidential politics. And even back in 2000, Trump went down to Minnesota to, talk with Ventura about his methodology on getting elected governor and maybe to help him, run for president then. Obviously, things have changed, and obviously Ventura would not have known how Trump would govern all the way back then. But you can see he's not holding back his opinions of the man.
And you felt like there was progress? Did it make you feel better to have that conversation, or what would you say?
No, I'm just saying as a graduate of Roosevelt High School and as the former governor of Minnesota, I'm so proud of Roosevelt High School and how they stood up for what is supposed to be America and freedom. And freedom is not arresting people without warrants. We have a system here. It's called a Constitution. And we have a party, the Republicans, who don't seem to want to abide by the Constitution. January 6th is a prime example of that. And now they're all free and they're in charge. You know what? Maybe it's time for Jesse. I only did one term. I'm owed a second.
So obviously there, he makes a major hint that he may run for the governorship of Minnesota again, which the timing is quite interesting considering that Governor Tim Walz, who was the vice presidential candidate for Kamala Harris in 2024, has announced that he will no longer be running for a third term. And the speculation is obviously that, Senator Amy Klobuchar might run for governor, but Jesse Ventura has mentioned that he may run again. Now, obviously the title of this video is Jesse Ventura, will he run for president? And the reason I am hinting at that possibility is because over the last decade, Jesse Ventura has made a couple of hints, and actually over the last 20 years has made several indications that he would run for president. The first of which comes in 2004 at WrestleMania 20 with a different feeling from the body back in 2004 in terms of Donald Trump asking for financial and political support, but hinting that he might run in 2008. Now, obviously, he didn't run, but a few years later, he hinted at it again. In 2015, Jesse sat down with Graham Bessinger where he talked about how he was elected governor and how a lot of first-time voters turned out to give him the support which he needed to win, and what that would mean for him if he were to run for president.
He didn't have the money to do any of that.
How many first-time voters came out that election?
A lot.
And that was largely the difference, too, wasn't it?
That's how come if I run for president, if they let me in the debates, I'd win that too. Bold talk, isn't it? Here's why. Hear me out. The last national election, 64%, a clear majority of the American people didn't bother to vote. They're all my potential customers and voters.
What's the likelihood you ever try and run?
Who knows? I'll decide that next spring because I won't get in now. Why would I get in now and waste money? Why would I get in now when all the pikers are in there? Let's wait till it's down to 2 of them. Let's wait till the Libertarian Convention next June, where the Libertarians announce their candidate and that candidate gets ballot access throughout the whole country. Then you time it out, you spend the least money, you come in, you destroy their 2 candidates if you're allowed in a debate. If they got the frickin' guts to let me in a debate, I'll come in and destroy their 2 candidates and steal the election in November, just like I did in Minnesota.
Would you like?
This was obviously in 2015, and Jesse would not run in 2016. But one thing to put into perspective here is, in Minnesota, Ventura won a narrow plurality of the vote. It was a 3-way split between him, the Democrats, and the Republicans, him winning about 37%. In many states, you have to win a majority, such as here in Georgia. You have to win 50% of the vote. And if no candidate wins that much, the top 2 go to a runoff. Now, with that said, in order to get into a debate, you have to have major polling. I believe it's 10% in the polls. That's why RFK ended up doing his presidential debate in question kind of on his own during when the Democrats and the Republicans were doing a debate in 2024, and he wasn't invited. And he's made comments about that in the past. Now, right after this, he would make a statement saying he doesn't really want to be the president because he values his privacy. But just 8 years later, he would make this comment. Now, this interview is from 2024 with Chris Van Vliet, and Chris asked him, how are you able to have such an interesting memory and be able to remember dates and times and all these things? And he said, that's the reason I won as governor of Minnesota, and also why this would happen.
And I say this not bragging. I'll tell you this right now. If I had ballot access in all 50 states and I were allowed in the debates, I'd be the next president of the United States.
Are we talking now or back when you were governor?
Right now.
Wow. Would you want to run for president?
If I had ballot access in all 50, yeah.
Now, obviously, that was a much deeper and more forward position from the body there, saying that he would, in fact, run for president if given the opportunity and had ballot access in all 50 states, which is not out of the realm of possibility that he could get. But the reason I bring all this up is because this interview outside of Roosevelt High School that we just saw is the first time that Governor Ventura has hinted at a return to politics since he left it in 2003. And it leads one to question, one, will he actually go through with it? And two, because he's someone who generally does not like either parties, he obviously has supported Governor Walz, and he has explained in the past why he did that and why he endorsed Vice President Harris and Governor Walz as the vice presidential candidate in 2024, but he's usually supporting of independents like Andrew Yang and Bernie Sanders and things like that. But is it an indicator that he might finally throw his hat into the presidential ring? And in the year 2000, he was actually polling at 34% among the general population as a candidate for president. And given that that year turnout was relatively low between Bush and Gore, who knows what would have happened if he'd have run? What does everyone else think? Do we think we're going to see Jesse the Body Ventura return to the governor's mansion of Minnesota? Or will we finally see him go for the executive mansion, the White House in Washington, D.C.? Let me know your thoughts down below. What do you think about Jesse Ventura? Do you think he could win? And if he could, would he be a good president? Let me know down below. And until next time, remember, never stop learning.